I found myself seated at a brightly lit white tabletop. Above me hung a round, oval mirror, half my height from where I sat, surrounded by a line of large, round, frosted light bulbs that cast a soft glow. The tabletop, cool marble with dark streaks and patches, wasn't of the highest quality, common for such surfaces, but it exuded a strong presence. Beneath it stood an old, dark-stained oak table, featuring shaker-style legs and a cutout that allowed someone to pull up a chair and sit comfortably in front of the mirror. The craftsmanship showed with dovetail joints, making it solid and durable. Scattered across the tabletop were an assortment of peculiar bottles, small, squat ones with jarring black plastic handles in deep red, along with small round and rectangular compacts in glass containers filled with mysterious liquids. It was my makeup table. My makeup table. The thought felt strange. This setup occupied a tiny room adjacent to my bedroom, which was softly decorated in off-white with a few pink accents, a stark contrast to the poster-clad chaos I might have imagined. Did I mention I was a woman? Just 2 days ago, I wasn't. I was Bobby, a college student from upstate New York majoring in education, with the aspiration of becoming a teacher. I had dreamed of nothing else and was confident in my abilities. I recalled teaching grammar and computers to my peers when I was 6. But everything changed last Thursday. During my student teaching placement, I faced significant challenges. I was assigned to a program for kids who were disengaged, many having been suspended or expelled. In just the first week, 2 students were suspended, and half the class had 10 or more absences in 5 weeks. Unfortunately, my observer only noted the negative aspects of my teaching. When I was pulled from the program, I was disappointed but not devastated. I had anticipated it. I was okay until I got home. Then I cried, hard. The kind of crying that would have drawn laughter in another context, but my friends couldn't bear to see me in such a state. When my old friend Riley arrived, I felt the weight of my shattered dreams. I wouldn't become a teacher, and the loss felt monumental. "Bobby, sweetie, look at me," she urged. Riley was cute, with a soft, round face and a light touch of makeup, claiming she couldn't recall a time without color on her face. "Bobby, you're smart and strong. You've helped me so many times. Come on, let's talk and enjoy the evening." I stood, washing away the evidence of my tears. My face was a sorry red, a blend of irritation and embarrassment. We climbed into her car. I had never needed a license since I didn't drive. "Bobby, we're going to talk." "Just relax," she said. I poured out everything, the frustrations, my family's reactions, how my friends had responded. We drove out of town, through the Adirondack Mountains, the radio fading as we lost signal. Riley turned it off. "Close your eyes, Bobby." "Why?" "Trust me." I complied. "Bobby, I know you have an open mind. You've faced a significant setback from narrow-minded people. While listening to your story, I had an idea." I wanted to peek, but she urged, "Keep your eyes shut. Bobby, you've always been open and honest, rarely asking for much in return. You give so much, yet often receive little." I kept my eyes closed as she spoke about how special I was. "I also know about your secret," she added. I had many secrets. I wondered which one she meant. "Bobby, I know you've always dreamed of understanding what life is like for girls." My stomach tightened. I had heard many transformation stories that began this way. "Hee, you're too cute." "What do you mean?" "What you thought." I fell silent, confused by her implication. "Bobby, as fellow pagans, don't you think it's possible I might have some magical abilities? That I could be a witch, not just spiritually inclined? Anything is possible, but it's not exactly probable. You can drop the Spock act." How did she know about my secret Star Trek obsession? Sure, I could believe it. "You've always been honest with me." "Well, Bobby, you've passed the first 2 tests. First, you didn't look. Second, you trusted your friend." "Tests?" Well, Bobby, please open your eyes. The car came to a stop, the engine quieting down. After tightly squeezing my eyes shut for what felt like 10 minutes, I finally opened them to adjust to my surroundings. The small cabin looked like a retirement spot my parents might choose. I don't think we're in Illinois, so why are we at Lincoln's birthplace? She chuckled softly, the kind of laugh that hinted at a suppressed giggle. I sensed something was off. Bobby, this is where we meet. We? Come on inside. I stepped out of the car, planning to grab my coat from the back, but she brushed it off, saying it wasn't necessary. We entered the dimly lit cabin. With a snap and a pop, overhead lights flickered on, revealing a surprisingly spacious interior that appeared to contain 5 rooms. The furnishings were plush, big, comfortable chairs, a fireplace, a long dining table, and a fully equipped kitchen. It honestly looked much smaller from outside. Riley, what's going on? You know, I've always thought it was cute how you call all girls hun. Well, it's just something I've always done. You never had any sisters. I had envisioned being stuck servicing a pimp in Albany or Boston by 9 p.m. tomorrow. No, never had any sisters. She chuckled again. Oh, right, the mind-reading thing. Okay, Professor X, something is really off here. Yes, Bobby, it is, let me explain. For ages, people have neglected the worship of the goddess, right? Right. And those who return to her priesthood are quite unique, aren't they? Often. I had never dedicated myself to a goddess or a god, my path had always been one of learning. Bobby, you were born into the wrong body. My nerves started to fray. We made a mistake. We? A mistake? Riley, you're making less and less sense here. She turned to face me, a tear rolling down her cheek, slightly smudging her makeup. We help place people. Who are we? And what do you mean by placing people? She sank into one of the large chairs, while I settled onto an ottoman nearby. I wasn't usually one to discuss my feelings openly. Hello, I'm Bob, and I wish I had been born female. Want coffee? It just wasn't a normal conversation. But I had tucked that thought away ever since I first read about transsexuality. Discovering TG fiction online had been enlightening, yet it was something I never seriously considered. I had always been large, more accurately, fat. I looked more like a woman from the Drew Carey show than any girl I had read about. I had also embodied the typical boy role, slightly aggressive, despite a nagging feeling that I should have been different. We made a mistake, she said, and I couldn't argue with that. We are agents, priestesses of the unknown goddess. Unknown goddess? Like in ancient Greece? Yes. I thought it was the unknown god. Historical inaccuracy. Oh. I glanced around. The room did have Greek influences, one timber carved like a Doric column, and the mantel above the fireplace displayed small figures resembling Greek gods and goddesses. The unknown god or goddess was a force that Greeks, particularly Athenians, worshipped to cover their bases. If there was a deity they weren't aware of, they could worship her to ensure they were protected. Right. You always were a history buff. Was she referring to me in the past tense? Well, Bobby, she had many small responsibilities, one being to take potential human souls from the ether and place them where they belonged. And there was a screw-up with me. A significant one. Your soul is female, and you've known that for a long time. I felt deeply unsettled. One complaint from your observer was that you never appeared comfortable. What word did he use? Withitness. It's actually a term in teaching philosophy. One reason for that issue is your soul. You often don't feel comfortable, you're not with it. I sank deeper into my makeshift seat, the atmosphere becoming eerie. She continued, I can't explain why, sometimes mistakes happen. Sometimes the goddess does it for a reason, to test a person's character. I felt a surge of anger. I jumped off the ottoman and kicked it hard. My character? I yelled, what character do I have if I was born wrong? All my hard work, the people I've known, my struggles, it was all for nothing. I slumped down. This was the last thing I needed. She was telling me I was wrong, just like everyone else, just like the advisor who claimed my lack of witness was a reason to deny me my dream. Just like the counselor who told me, you'll never be a teacher, you have a learning disability. She walked slowly, and I turned my head sharply to meet her gaze. Everything appeared blurry, a mix of tears, irritation, and confusion clouding my vision. I had discarded the glasses I wore since 6th grade earlier, which didn't help matters. She placed her hand gently on the top of my head. In various philosophies, this spot is seen as an opening for the spiritual to enter the body, referred to as the crown chakra. She snapped her fingers over it, and that's when something extraordinary occurred, light. I felt a brilliant white light penetrate me, not just seen but felt, invading every cell of my body. It was my first clear vision of her. She was radiant, feminine in form, but only subtly so. Her entire figure shimmered like sparkling white energy. She had a head with long flowing hair made of the same luminous substance, but no defined face, just a line where her nose would be and something that resembled a brow ridge. No eyes or mouth. Her body seemed to be her attire, billowing like a dress, but made of her own essence. She was breathtaking, exactly how I had always imagined a goddess should look. The space around us was pitch black, which made her beauty even more striking. We appeared to be floating, my feet dangled, yet I didn't feel anchored, just suspended. There we stood, the goddess and a bewildered young man, enveloped in a column of light, as I glimpsed a larger world. Then, she spoke, not in words, but in a spiritual resonance that echoed within me, clear as a child's conscience when considering a cookie but knowing better. Greetings, my child. Riley has spoken of me. I had to respond quickly, unsure how to articulate my thoughts. Yes, milady, you are known as the unknown goddess. But now, I pray, known to you. Yes, milady. Her demeanor softened, the stoicism melting away. You are a respectful young man. Has she told you of the error? Milady, with all due respect, if there was an error, was it not within your power to correct? There is no God of complete power, young man, and we strive for near perfection. However, we recognize our mistakes and seek to remedy them. How can you fix an error made 22 years ago without undoing everything that has been created since? Simply, my child. I wish you. Wish me, milady? She stepped closer, touching the hem of my shirt. Yes, my child. You were meant to be one of my servants, like Riley. She was destined to serve you? Yes. So, I'm to change my career after 4 years devoted to something else? Milady, that isn't. My voice faltered. No, my child. You see, I have no male priests or followers. In these times, I reveal myself only to those I have chosen. All so far have been female. Unfortunately, an error has led to one of my chosen being born male. I was at a loss for words. After a moment, I finally said, I'm uncertain how to proceed, milady. I stand at a frightening crossroads in my life. My voice trailed off again. Yes, my child. I realized she had never called me by my name. I stood in this dream world, unsure of what I was standing on. Milady. I feel ruined at this juncture. Did you orchestrate this situation? No, my child, though I could intervene. Your reviewer was judging you. I will defer to my siblings in power to determine if it was a fair judgment. She appeared genuinely saddened, her brow ridge softened, emanating a sense of remorse. My lady, you seem, at least as I perceive it, very sad. How may I help? You've lost your career. Your beliefs in gods and goddesses are being validated in this very moment, and one of your first thoughts is to ask how to serve. hearing it phrased that way. Click. I was fated to be a servant. My life could have been so different, so happy. Yes, my child. I flinched slightly. Sorry, milady, the mind reading is still unsettling. Her mood lightened a bit, reminiscent of Riley. My child. Riley has informed me that in your deepest fantasies, you've known you were meant to be female, or that you weren't destined to be male. I felt my cheeks flush. Yes, milady. I've never felt comfortable in my own skin. Your skin is wrong, not your feelings. How could feelings ever be wrong? That was it, the tears began to flow. Her demeanor shifted to complete compassion. It's okay, my dear. It's okay. She embraced me, like a warm blanket wrapping around my shoulders. I leaned my weary head against her. She held me as a mother would comfort her child after a small tragedy that could engulf their world. I'm wrong. I laid it all out for her. She bore my weight with ease. No, you're not wrong. Your flesh may be, but Bobby is not your flesh or even your name. You are you, the kind person who once took a day of suspension to defend your brother against cruel words. The one willing to forego more lucrative careers to teach. The person who slipped notes of encouragement to those feeling defeated. The one who offered free tutoring to anyone ready to learn any subject to help others. Who was crushed by the person he thought he was. I listened to her. She was right, those actions weren't tied to my physical form. They reflected the goodness within me. My teaching experience hadn't been fair, the odds were stacked against me. But I was successful in many aspects of life, not just one or two. My child, please, will you allow me to correct the error? I looked up, gazing at her cool, featureless face glowing warmly. What you change, will it erase my past as a male? Yes. I won't alter the choices you've made or those made about you. That's not my place. So, I'd be a girl who failed at student teaching? No. You'd be someone with a different path who happens to be a woman. My new goddess spoke with a comforting demeanor. Anyone else saying that might come across as insincere, but I understood her intention. What will I be like? Will I change who I am? Bobby, you know that's not the case. I understand your fear, and I will alleviate it. You will receive a small pendant. In the first 10 days, if you feel too uncomfortable, you can break it, and everything will revert. You will forget me, and Riley will take you to a country retreat for a long weekend where you drink and forget your worries. If you find it acceptable, you can put the pendant away and enjoy your new life. This is starting to sound like one of those TG stories, milady. I know. You're comfortable with those ideas, so I'll accept them as parameters for handling this delicate situation. She was not only easygoing, beautiful, and willing to offer me a new existence, but also smart. I wondered why I hadn't met her at prom. I might have actually gone. You're such a delightful soul. I started to laugh, the sound feeling natural as her form radiated a similar warmth. She understood the absurdity of fixing a goddess's mistake, and I think she found enjoyment in it. My goddess. I accept. Please, may I be your servant? The brow ridge of her figure softened, reminiscent of a mother hearing her child say, I love you. Of course, my beloved child. Welcome to the truth. She wrapped her arms around my neck, and the white fabric enveloped me, cascading down over my head and beneath my feet. It grew dark, and I felt the cocoon around me sever the fabric of my clothes, peeling them away. The material formed around me, melding to my skin. I first sensed a change around my pelvis, the very essence of my being was transforming. My 200+ pounds seemed to evaporate. I carried much of that weight in my midsection and large thighs. I wondered what I would look like. I had an idea of who I'd be, but not how I'd appear. The darkness felt warm as I concentrated on my desires. I wanted to be shorter, not tall enough to be considered tall as a guy or short as a girl, but somewhere uncomfortably in between. I had grown tall early on, only to stop, which made it silly to wear the same pants from 8th grade on my last day of high school, especially coincidentally just before my XY would become XX. Inside the cocoon, the atmosphere was serene. My thoughts were all that filled my mind. I felt more changes happening. I was losing weight. The fabric around me seemed to rise. I kept my arms flat and slightly apart, feeling a warm tingling sensation throughout my body. I sensed the fabric falling. I assumed it was my body changing. The deep darkness grew increasingly relaxing, and I started to hear less as my mind slowed down. I realized I might need a few changes in my head as well. My next waking thought was alarming. I had never experienced unconsciousness against my will, nor had I ever been knocked out in my life, not even during my 4 years on the gymnastics team. Wait, gymnastics team? No, I was on the wrestling team, wasn't I? I moved my arm beneath the fabric, now much looser. I took a deep breath and felt my chest for the first time. It was shocking. A girl's chest is far more sensitive. I wished I had explored this more with my past girlfriends. It was then that I reached out to touch the fabric, which opened at my touch, revealing a ray of white light through my cocoon. I had no idea how much time had passed, but I didn't care. I was enjoying it. As I sat up, I felt the opening grow larger. I suppose this was my exit, leading me towards something new. I stepped out. My eyes were met with pure white light. Perhaps they were different now. Maybe girls had some sort of spider vision they hadn't revealed, and I was the first to discover it. No, that was ridiculous. I always cope with stress by joking. As my eyes adjusted, I realized I was still surrounded by the same white light from my vision. That was all I could see, just white. Hello? My voice sounded different, mezzo, I would guess. I was never good with musical terms. I sat down, and my vision still felt off, as if intentionally hazy. Hi. It was the goddess, communicating with me telepathically. Milady? Yes, I'm here. Welcome to your new life, little one. I can't see yet. It just takes time, sweetie. Don't worry. I've made a few adjustments and called in some favors. Your eyes? You now have better than perfect vision. If nothing else, I'd save $150 a year on eyewear. I realized later that being a woman actually cost more. Sure, I saved on glasses, but do you know how much a good foundation costs? And about your size, you felt the changes. You're quite lean now. If I were a doctor, I might suggest you put on a few pounds. Don't go ruining that now. Yes, milady. What happens next? Relax, your vision will return shortly. When you can see yourself, and you're ready, snap your fingers. You'll wake up in the real world with your new body. Her voice was so comforting. I felt ready to snap my fingers right then, but I decided to take this time to explore in my head, or wherever I was. My vision began to return gradually. As I accidentally touched my hip, I was startled to find nothing there. I had been a big guy, okay, a disgustingly overweight guy, but where my hip used to be, I brushed against air. I realized I would need to retrain my muscle memory. I moved my hand inward and felt the curve of my new hips. The skin was incredibly soft, unlike the rough, dry skin I had as a male. Or maybe the goddess just had excellent skin moisturizer. My mind was still a bit foggy. Swimming was how I described my inability to focus. I remembered spending countless hours in the pool with my brother, often zoning out and forgetting important things like school assignments. Our parents had invested too much money in that above-ground pool when we were young, and now those memories were clear. I recognized that how I would have described those moments last week was still the same. I was still me, I was just different. I sat up, and as my vision continued to improve, I began to see blurry shapes. I started to pat the ground around me, realizing I wasn't wearing my glasses. I had worn them daily since my early teens, and I was nervous I might have lost them. I would be nearly blind without them, so I panicked a bit, shifting to all fours as I searched. Finally, my vision cleared. I recalled that promise of better eyesight. Looking down at my hands, I noticed they were soft, with long, delicate fingers. I curled my fingers and examined my palm. The scar I had from scissors when I was 12 remained on my left hand, confirming they were indeed mine. But they were smooth, so thin, I felt like I might break them. My gaze shifted to the most noticeable feature, the only one I had known. My chest had developed into a generous B-cup size, which I would discover later. At that moment, they were just 2 mounds of flesh. I cupped them with my hands, feeling their soft bounce, realizing they were fully connected. I traced the curve of my body to my back, touching my arms and shoulders, everything felt so small. Next, my eyes moved to my knees. As a male, I had undergone surgeries on both knees due to obesity and a misguided dream of becoming a professional wrestler, which had turned into a nightmare after a botched suplex damaged my already weak knees. I noticed there were no scars left, my knees felt soft and smooth. My feet felt tiny. They couldn't have been more than a size 7.5 narrow. I was a little self-conscious about that, but that was just me. Overall, I was now a size 4. As a male, my dress size had been 26W. Wow, what a drop! I stood at 5 feet 5 inches, and that was fantastic. I could finally wear all those outfits I had always dreamed of. Suddenly, it hit me. As I examined myself, I caught my first glimpse of my center. There was a dark tuft of hair above it, leading down to a small opening. I sat there, entranced, realizing the momentous nature of what was happening. I was a girl. This wasn't a dress-up game or a fantasy story, it was real. I was this beautiful girl. I was everything I had ever imagined in my wildest fantasies. I could do anything as a girl. Everyone I ever knew recognized me as a girl. I was the granddaughter my grandmother had always wanted. I might even be someone's girlfriend. I didn't know, I just knew I liked men, maybe. I shook off the lingering sensations and stood up for the first time, noticing the differences in my muscle structure. I nearly jumped for joy, the effort I used to expend just to stand was no longer necessary. Until I retrained myself, I might look a bit silly, but thankfully I had time to adjust. I glanced around, realizing the skin I had once inhabited was gone. I took a few tentative steps in my new body. It felt strange at first, so I experimented with different movements, long strides, dainty steps, even jumping. While I leapt, I became aware of the heavy mane of brunette hair cascading just past my neck. If I could choose, I'd want it to be longer. But that was my decision to make. My hair. Hee. Taking a deep breath, I acknowledged the many things I needed to learn and adapt to in the real world. I wanted to get started, so I exhaled and snapped my fingers. My vision sharpened quickly, and I saw Riley standing there, visibly stunned. "Riley? Are you okay?" I asked, noticing the fear in her eyes as they widened. "Oh my. Riley, what's wrong?" Then it hit me, I was in my new form. You really. Yes, hun. The goddess said she would, didn't she? How long was I out? Out? I just snapped my fingers. If there was time, it was 1/10 of a second. A bright flash, and poof, there's a girl. Oh right, time control. I'd have to reread Manual of the Planes again. I took a deep breath. Well, I stammered, but Riley shushed me. She walked over to the couch, picked up a large fleece blanket, and wrapped it around my shoulders. I pulled it tight. Well, Sammy. My eyes widened. Oh, she didn't tell you. That's part of my job. She gave you a new name, Samantha. Everyone will call you Sammy. Hee hee, it's cute. One of your favorite anime characters shares the name, right? Yes. She smiled softly. Now, Sammy, listen, we have 3 days. Over on the table is the necklace the goddess gave you if you want to back out, but... What's wrong, Riley? I don't want you to back out. You could be really happy. She smiled and wrapped her arm around my shoulders. And I would be. I'm not making choices right now. Good thinking, girl. Now, she gave you the body. My job is to give you the mind. Over these 3 days, I need to teach you what you need to know. You have 22 years of girl knowledge to catch up on. Some of it is already inside your head, waiting to be unlocked. Some you knew from your previous interests. Much of it is simply about building the self-confidence you've always lacked. I'll help you fill in the gaps. By Monday night, no one will have known the difference. Right. You have a lot to learn. You need to understand how to act like a woman, how to dress and prepare. You also have to interact with people as a woman. You won't get everything perfect, but most will attribute any odd behavior to the stress of losing your teaching position. You'll have to handle that just like you did as a male. I stood up. Could we start by getting me some clothes? She let out that laugh again. I still had it, no matter my XX or XY status. We walked into a warm, bright bedroom. I sat on the bed as she retrieved some basic clothing, a white cotton bra and panty set, one of my t-shirts, and a pair of sweatpants. Are these mine? I felt a bit nervous seeing the underwear. Of course. The goddess took care of everything. She adjusted all your favorite male clothing to fit your new body, got rid of some of the poor quality stuff, and added a few new items. She teased, holding up the bra, and I stifled a laugh. Stop it. Hey, this is traumatic. I just got sentenced to a lifetime of needing underwire support. She laughed wholeheartedly. Okay, Sammy. First, put these on. She handed me the panties. They're pretty similar to shorts, so you'll find them easy to wear. Just make sure the front is smooth and that you feel comfortable. I slipped them on, and they did feel comfortable. Good, now your little fear isn't so bad. She handed me the bra. Watch, it's simple. She quickly pulled off her t-shirt and removed her bra in a few swift motions. I was taken aback. Relax, hun. You're one of the girls now. You're going to see another woman sometime, right? I guess so. Exactly. Now watch. Pull the straps onto your shoulders, lean over a bit, and let your breasts fall into the cups gently. Then sit up, reach behind you, and fasten it. Try it a few times. I mimicked her movements, though fastening it took a few tries. After 4 or 5 minutes, I secured it properly and was able to repeat the process. I then put on the t-shirt, a dark green v-neck, and the simple black sweatpants. I was dressed for the first time as a woman. Not flattering, hun. Seriously. I feel bad giving you that. It's okay, it's what I'm used to wearing. She smiled. Sammy, that's all changed now. You don't have to wear sweats and t-shirts anymore. You can look cute and attractive, you can finally express what you've had in your mind. She tapped my forehead. That's a big shift, it'll take more than 3 days, hun. I glanced at the clock, it was getting late, at least 9:30. I was usually an early riser. Hun, it's late. I need some time. Can we continue this tomorrow? Of course, Sammy. Thanks, sorry to cut things short right at the beginning, but it's late. Do we need to go back? No, it's fine. Go lay down. The TV remote is on the stand, feel free to do whatever you want. You and I have the run of the cabin. She walked out of the bedroom and gently closed the door behind her. For the first time, I was alone in my new body.